Hello and welcome to the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, your host, David Hale. In the podcast, we'll be talking about mediumship and all things spiritual in a down-to-earth and honest kind of way, with a touch of humour also. So I hope you can join me on my podcast journey so you can learn from my own spiritual journey and experiences with spirit in the aim to help you on your own spiritual journey, or it may just be to answer any of those questions that you have about the spiritual world. So join me now as we get into this episode. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Listener Questions. I hope you're well. So this question is a bit of a two-parter, so we'll break it down as we go through the episode. So the question is, how do you overcome blocking yourself when connecting to spirit? And how can you strengthen that connection if you're getting the person but not the information? So let's break it down and let's look at the first part of this, which is how do you overcome blocking yourself when connecting to spirit? So in order to understand that, let's just talk about some of the things that can block us when we are communicating with spirit. And this is a really good question and point to raise, because I think we all go through this when we first start developing. I certainly had a lot of blocks. I'd put a lot of blocks on myself, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So I can obviously now give you my advice from what I experienced and what I've learned since that point as well. So the first thing I'll say is, I think if the mechanics of mediumship were taught more, I think we'd understand exactly how it works and what the blocks are and how to avoid them. Because my feeling is, this is a feeling, I don't know this for a fact, just my feeling is that in a lot of circles or development groups or courses that you do, don't necessarily talk about the mechanics of spirit communication, of mediumship. I'm not going to go into it here. I think it's the wrong episode for it. But I just think that it just needs maybe a little bit more education, rather than just sitting in the circle and someone saying to you, right, we can all connect to spirit, let's do it. Actually, let's understand how it works so we can understand exactly how we're doing it. That's just a bit of a side note I want to say, but I will do an episode on that, about the mechanics of mediumship. But it's just something that I think about quite regularly. So when I teach my online circle, we do go into the mechanics of mediumship and how it works, so people know exactly what it is that they're doing. Then they would understand how our mind is a big blocker when it comes to spirit communication. So let's look at that now. So what things can block us or block our communication with spirit? So the first thing is, because mediumship happens through the mind, our mood is a big factor here. So how we are feeling will affect our communication with spirit. So if we are in a depressed state, if we are tired, exhausted, feeling unwell, we might just be feeling a bit down in the dumps, a bit deflated. All those things are going to affect our communication with spirit, and you might feel blocked. Because with mediumship, because it is done through the mind, those things that affect your mind in a negative way are going to be a blocker, because you're just not feeling it. You just don't want to do it. You're just not feeling right. You're not happy. You're just not in that right state of mind. So in which case, we need to raise the vibration. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details about that, because I have got an episode on how to raise the vibration. So if you want to learn about how to do that, or tips, things you can do, activities you can do to raise your vibration, please go back and listen to that episode, so I don't need to go into details about it here. So if you are feeling in that kind of mood, then raise the vibration. Now, it's easier said than done. If you are going through a particularly difficult period in your life, whether you are feeling very depressed, you are feeling very down, it is very hard to then suddenly switch and change and raise your vibration. It's very hard to do. Because raising vibration, to me, very quickly, is just about changing your mindset. It's raising your mood. It's going from a lower vibration energy, like depression, like tiredness, sadness, grief, to a high vibration, which is happiness, joy, excitement, contentment, all those happy things. And we really need that when we're communicating with spirit. So if you have tried to communicate with spirit, whether it's for yourself or when you've tried to do a reading for someone and you can't because it just feels tough, think about that moment and think about how you were feeling in that moment. And and I bet you'll see that around that particular time, you weren't necessarily in a great headspace, if you want to say that. So yes, so mood is a big blocker, and and just raise the vibration to help unblock that. Again, easier said than done. The other thing that can block our connection to spirit are our nerves. I know this from first-hand experience, because whenever I've done public work, whether it be in during my gymnastics career, whether it be in my in my work career, where I was talking to people, large audiences, public speaking, whether it's to my in my drag queen career, whenever I before I got on that stage or that platform or in that room full of people, I would be nervous. I'd be really nervous. And those things, nerves especially, can block us, especially in this work, because if you're doing this work for the right reasons, you're not doing it for any ego, right? Because that does happen. But if you're doing it authentically for the right reasons, your nerves are a good thing, because it shows that you care. It shows that you want to do a good job. You want to give a good reading to that person, whether it be in a one-to-one or in a platform demonstration setting. And unfortunately, nerves, if you're really, really nervous, they can block us, because we're not necessarily thinking about the reading. We're thinking about, oh my God, I feel so ill. I feel so nervous. How do I get over this? And And so go through again. We use our mind to go through all these different scenarios and think, what if this goes wrong? What if I can't get this? What if I don't say that? And nerves can really be incapacitating to some people. It can really affect people. And to overcome that, there's no magic pill for that. There's no magic formula that you can use to get over those nerves. So I can't necessarily give you advice there. And even still now, I still get nervous, right? And even if I'm doing a one-to-one, before a one-to-one, I will still get a little bit nervous, because I want to give that person a great reading. I don't want to sit here and not have spirit come through and have that client feel like they've wasted their time. Do you know what I mean? So the nerves definitely play into that, because again, we care, we want to do a good job. So we just have to find our own ways of getting over our own nerves, right? But, from my experience, it comes with experience. It comes with practice. The more you learn, and that's important as well, it's not just to practice, but it is to continually learn. The more you learn, develop, you practice, your skill, the more you come to understand your ability, and the more you come to trust what's being placed in your head. And when you really have that trust in spirit and in yourself, the nerves, they lessen a little bit, because you know that whatever happens, spirit are not going to let you down. They are going to come through. But again, that only comes with, with just getting on with it and just practicing and being open to making mistakes and being open to getting some no's. You start to learn, okay, it's okay if I get a no, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. And then you start you build upon your skill, and you build upon that trust that you have again with yourself and your guides. And the nerves, for some people, the nerves are always going to be there. For me, the nerves are always going to be there. I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of nerves, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, because the nerves actually keep me on my toes. And most of the time, the nerves turn to excitement. So once I start getting going during a reading or during a platform, and whether it's online or physical, once I get going, those nerves turn to that excitement. And you think, oh, I'm getting stuff coming through here. And that builds the connection. So, sometimes, it's just being honest. And sometimes some people, the nerves are always going to be there. So don't expect your nerves to completely go. Another thing that can block you, and this could be linked with nerves, is pressure. And that putting the pressure on yourself. And I think we do that as mediums is because we want to give a good service. Again, whether it be in a one-to-one setting or in a public setting, to an audience, we want to give a good service. So we put pressure on ourselves. I certainly put pressure on myself, but I've learned to let it go a little bit more now. And it's the pressure of, I guess, almost trying to be perfect. But it's taken me a long time, 5 or 6 years, to let that go and say to myself, look, there's no such thing as perfection. each mediumship reading that we do is like an experiment, because we never know what is going to come forward. If anything does come forward, we just don't know that until we're in that particular minute when we start that reading, again, whether it be a one-to-one on the platform. So that self-imposed pressure, and it's not really pressure coming from other people. We might think it is. At the very beginning of my development, I thought I feel like that client's pressuring me because they want this answer, they want that answer, and etc., etc. But actually realize the pressure is just on yourself because you want to be able to give certain answers. And as my mum always says to me, David, you can only work with the tools you've got in your box. So if spirit don't want to give a certain answer, they're not going to give it. If they want to give something else to prove it's them, they're going to give it. But I think we put a pressure on ourselves to be perfect, and I must get this through, I must get a name, I must get a place, I must get a date, I must get a description, I must get this, that and the other. And we put that pressure on ourselves, and that in itself blocks us, because our mind starts going into overdrive and thinking about things logically rather than letting things come through organically. So that can be a block. Again, there's no magic pill to get over that block. It just comes with, again, practice, time and patience. The trouble is, these days, everyone wants something now. They don't want to wait until 2 years' time, when actually they're probably more ready in 2 years' time. They want to do it now. They want to know now. They want to get over this thing now. But that's not necessarily the reality. This mediumship takes work. It's not a 6-week course and then you're a medium. This is, for me, it's not just an ability, but it's a lifestyle. It's how I live my life. It's a way of life, how I live it. And so it's a continued journey and development. And we just need to be patient with ourselves and not put pressure on ourselves to have to do something now, to have had mastered something now. Because, sometimes it takes us years to master something. Even mediums that have been doing this 20 years will tell you, I've not mastered this yet. I'm still learning something new every day. So when we put that kind of that pressure on ourselves, it can block us as well. But again, only you know how you're going to get over that. And last thing I'll say is overthinking. And again, you could link all these together. You could link that with mood. You could link that with nerves. You're overthinking things. And what if I don't get this? What if I don't get that? It's making me really nervous that I'm going to stand on that stage and nothing's going to come through. So the overthinking is a big part of it, because when you're overthinking, you are using your logical brain. But when we go into a mediumship reading, we are just surrendering our brain, our mind, to spirit. So I call that my spirit brain. So I've got my logical side of my brain and I've got my spirit brain. Now, now I'm doing readings. Not in the beginning it was a little bit different, but now I understand through experience. When I'm doing a reading, I'm only using my spirit brain, right? So whatever comes through my mind, and that also comes with intention. So when you're going into a reading, you set the intention. So right from this point forward, whatever pops into my head, I know it's from spirit. It's not my logical brain. And you just pay attention to that. As soon as you start overthinking things and questioning what you're getting, your logical brain kicks in. That can then take over. And that can then change the meaning of things that you're receiving. And look, that's very easy to do, especially when you first start. And I did this, and sometimes it does happen, not very often anymore. But I know when I first started, you have something come into your mind, and rather than trust it and say it, your logical brain kicks in and goes, "No, I can't say that. Surely that's wrong. No, it must mean that. No, I can't say it." And then, before you know it, you've talked yourself out of giving that piece of information that actually is coming from spirit, right? So we need to learn to not overthink, just trust what comes in and give what we get. But again, I've only learned that through experience. And now people, when the people see me work on a public platform, whether it's on Facebook, Zoom, or whatever, and I see it myself, is that if I'm given something that Spirit's given me and I have to put it in my own interpretation, I lose my words sometimes. I can't think of the word that I want to say. But that's because I've almost switched that logical side of my brain off. And therefore the word that I want to use is not quite coming in because I'm not thinking about it. I'm so focused on what Spirit's given me that kind of the logical side of my brain goes to sleep a little bit. So I lose my words. And I found that, since I'm doing this more and more, that I'm so tuned into spirit when I'm reading, that the logical brain does go out the window. But again, that takes practice, and there's not, again, a magic formula that you can take to stop yourself overthinking. Again, like with me, it comes with practice and experience and learning and self-reflecting and looking at those readings that you have done and go, oh, that was a great reading, because I got this, and this. The evidence was fantastic. And I know in that particular day, I was in a really good mood because the sun was shining. It was a lovely day, and I was really up, and I was really upbeat that day. So I know that's why I had a really good reading. Then you might look at another reading you've done where maybe you weren't in such a good mood that day, and you can look at it and go, well, I still had evidence, but it didn't come through as clearly to me as I would usually have. So you can then look at that and go, I know why that is now. So it's because I wasn't in such a great mood that day. So you can, if you really self-reflect and look at your own work and how you perform, then you can kind of understand, okay, that's now then, I then now know that's how I need to work. I need to work with an upbeat mood. I need to work that way. I need to work with energy rather than work with, tiredness, exhaustion, or not being in a great mood. So look at yourself as well and use yourself as that development tool. Reflect. We don't do it enough, but reflect on your past connections as well and learn from them. And then you can start to see how you can unblock certain things there as well. So that's the first part of the question done. And so I hope that answers some questions for some people, because I know there'll be a lot of people who are on the beginning of the journeys who do start feeling these little blocks now and again. So this just gives you something to think about from my experience there. So I hope that helps. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question, I guess I've answered most of it, I think. But the second part of the question is, how can you strengthen that connection if you're getting the person but not the information? So what they basically mean, because I did check the meaning of this question out, is that what happens if you do feel a spirit person step forward, but you don't feel like you're getting the information from them? And how can you strengthen that connection? Again, it's with practice. Look, and I might sound like a parrot here, but it is with practice. But this is also with trust. Trust is a massive thing when it comes to spirit connection, that you have to trust what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling. And also and look out for the different ways that you're going to get the information. I'll tell you what happened with me. It was about 1.5 years into my development. And at the very beginning of my development, I was very clairvoyant. So it means I would see images, signs and symbols. I would get those things placed in my head. I didn't really pick up information in any other ways. And there were 2 readings that I did where I still got evidence. I still got information and a connection from spirit, but I didn't feel like it was coming in clearly enough. I felt like I was missing information. I still gave evidence. The clients could still take what I said, but for me, I didn't feel like it was. There were fabulous readings. I thought, oh, it was a good reading. I still got the information, but I felt like I was missing something. I was missing things. I wasn't seeing things as clearly as I wanted to. And I thought, what's blocking that? Why am I not seeing that? And I had a conversation with a medium, another medium friend of mine, Craig Morris, who again, many of you might have heard of and follow. And he said to me, Spirit are just working with you in a different way. And I was like, huh. He says, maybe you're getting things now clairaudiently as well as clairvoyantly. And then something happened, which I'll talk about in another episode, where spirit made me realize that I was also now being tuned up to be clairaudient. And what was happening was I was so focused on receiving information clairvoyantly that it was blocking me from receiving information in other ways. So in this case, clairaudiently. So what was happening was that spirit were trying to talk to me, obviously in my head, and give me words and phrases and whatever else. But because I wasn't aware that was coming, I wasn't paying attention to it, and therefore I was missing out on information. So that could be one explanation here for this question, is that your connection is there. You might think the connection is weak, but actually if you pay attention to other things you're getting. Again, it comes back to the mechanics of mediumship. If you pay attention to how your body feels, if you pay attention to what you could possibly hear rather than see, you might find that is how that spirit person is trying to give you that information, and you're not getting it in your usual way. So it's just being aware that it's being aware that spirit will use you in any way they want, and to pay attention to all your senses. I'm not a fan of this, you must be one clair and pick a clair and work with that clair. I will say to my circle students, don't ever restrict yourself. Don't restrict yourself to one clair, so clairvoyance or clairaudience or clairsentience, etc., etc. Spirit are going to give information to you in a way in which they can communicate it with you. Again, this is a topic for a whole other episode, but just being aware that spirit will use you in different ways, not just in one particular way. So that's a way of that in itself is how you can strengthen that connection. It's just being aware of all of your spirit senses and psychic senses and how you will receive information. And it comes back to also, don't overthink it. If you've got a spirit person that steps forwards, allow it to drop in, just relax, allow the information to come in. Don't try and force it. Again, as soon as you try and force it, your logical brain kicks into gear and will start making things up and pulling things in from nowhere. So allow that energy just to build up as you feel them come in. Ask them questions in your head. Say to them, okay, give me a month. Give me a month of the year that is significant to you. Allow that to drop in your head. Don't force it. Don't overthink it. Lean into the information. Ask in your head. You can ask spirit as well. With mediumship, it is about receiving. So we are receiving the information, but we can still ask. It's like if I say something and I feel like I've said it wrong, I'll go back to spirit and I'll say, look, what is that? I've said it wrong. What is it? Give it to me again. And they tend to give me it again, but in a different way. So I pick it up differently. So how to strengthen it is be aware of your clairs. Be aware you're going to get information in different ways. Don't overthink it. What we can also do is we get into our head a little bit. This could be where the overthinking comes in. We get into our head a little bit and we try to, again, a logical brain kicks into gear and we try to think about, okay, what do I think the client needs to hear? That's not up to us. We need to relax and allow spirit to give us what they think the client needs to hear, not what we want to hear. And so we need to just relax into it as well. But again, there's no magic formula here. It is just building that connection with spirit, however you build it with it, whether you build it with them, whether you sit in meditation more often, whether you sit in the power more often, whether it's just practice. You build up your connection with spirit, how you build, because everyone does it in different ways, but you need to learn to build it up, to build the connection in your own way and trust. But I think I've said enough there without me just continually waffling on. So I hope I've answered the questions there. Yeah, I hope it helps. Look after yourselves, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Well, that's it for today's listener question episode. If you have any questions that you'd like me to answer based on the spiritual world or mediumship, then please do email me at davidhmedium@outlook.com. You can email me as many questions as you like. I'll add them to the list and I'll get to them as quick as I can. But until then, thanks for listening, look after yourselves, have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you all soon.